Good Sunday morning and welcome to WGN TV Political Report. I'm Paul Lisnick. Next Thursday, early voting begins across Illinois. It's that time. Up and down the ballot, voters will have the choice to make, keep Illinois on its current path or change directions for the next 4 years. Now, each one of the state's constitutional offices is up for grabs, including Illinois' Chief Investment and Banking Officer, Democrat Michael Frerichs, has been state treasurer for 2 consecutive terms. Last year, his office reported surpassing $1 billion in investment earnings since 2015. He's facing a challenge from Republican State Representative and Deputy Minority Leader Tom Demmer. Incumbent Treasurer and Democrat Mike Frerichs joins me this morning to talk about his bid for another term. And Ms. Treasurer, good morning. Good to see you.
Hey, Paul, it's great to see you today.
Thanks for coming in. So I want you to just start briefly with an overview of the Office of Treasurer and how your office interacts with the legislature. Because some people raise the question, why does it matter what party's in the Office of Treasurer?
Well, I'd say one of the biggest interactions with the legislature is we're the Chief Investment Officer. We've now made over $1.2 billion in interest income for the state of Illinois. That's over $1.2 billion they don't have to raise in taxes, or $1.2 billion they don't have to make in cuts to our roads and bridges. We also manage programs out there, and we've grown our college savings program, more than doubled the accounts, set up a new program to help people save for disabilities, set up a new program to help people save money for their retirement. We fight every day to return money to people through our Unclaimed Property Division, and many of these things were opposed by my opponent and Republicans. So I think the party does make a difference.
You're from Gifford, Illinois. I want to say that because some people maybe just assume he's from Chicago, isn't everybody? And you're not. You're from Rantoul area. You currently live in Champaign. You represent the University of Illinois. That explains the orange and blue, my alma mater. But that being said, how did your upbringing in a rural part of the state impact your perspective on so many like the class warfare issues that we seem to be living these days?
Yeah, so I think there's talk about class warfare, but I grew up in a small town, a very homogeneous community, population 800, Gifford, Illinois. I grew up around the farms, working in the fields growing up, and it taught me values of hard work. It taught me values of fairness. And that's what we try and do with things like our unclaimed property. You know, these are principles that people understand, that if the money doesn't belong to you, you give it back. And that's what we do. That's why we've returned over $1.5 billion to people in the state of Illinois. Because 1, it belongs to them. 2, it's my job. And 3, that we know when we put that money back into people's pockets and they spend it at a local business or a restaurant, that money circulating throughout the economy does more good for the state than it does sitting in a state bank account in Springfield.
Now, some people get confused between your office's role and the role of the controller. And is it just fair to say that the controller writes the checks and you're investing the money?
Yeah, I'm the Chief Investment Officer of the state of Illinois, and the comptroller writes the checks. There are checks and balances out there. But, you know, we focus on making money for the state. We focus on giving people the tools they need to invest in themselves. And we get to fight on their behalf to get money that's sitting in banks, financial institutions, big corporations back into their pockets.
And I want to talk about that role, but one follow-up on that other question. There's long been a push, let's combine, let's merge the offices of controller and treasurer. What's your position on that?
I've been supportive of that. When I served in the state Senate, I voted for it in the Senate. We got it out of the Senate, but didn't get out of the House. I supported when I ran for treasurer. I supported when I ran for re-election, and still support it today. I think we should do everything we can to try and find savings in the state of Illinois. And if we can merge these offices, if the public wants us to merge these offices, we should do it in a way that produces the maximum savings.
Wasn't it originally created to kind of put an ethics caution in there, keep things clean?
Yeah, the idea was to have checks and balances, but we also at that time, in the 1970 Constitution, created an auditor general. And I'm not saying you should put the offices completely together, but there are some incompatible responsibilities that you could separate. You give some of those responsibilities to the Secretary of State or to the governor or to the Auditor General. You could still have those checks and balances with one less office and find some savings.
All right, so your investment decisions, they need to consider risk, performance, benchmarks. So talk about those factors and how you make the investment decisions you make for the state.
Yeah, so the General Assembly has a low tolerance for risk. They task me with getting a good return, maintaining liquidity, and preservation of capital. Those 3 don't go together so well. If you want to put all your money under a mattress, you can keep it liquid and you won't lose it, but you won't make anything. If you want to put into riskier investments, you might not be so liquid or you might lose. And so we try and strike a nice balance here. We try and work closely with the comptroller's office, see when they're going to need money available, and we can put it into longer term investments. We make a higher interest rate, and that's what we do.
And how do you adjust to, you know, right now we're dealing in shaky market times, right? I mean, you know, every once in a while you got to talk to a financial expert because, wow, things are changing. How does your office deal with that, or can you not deal with that kind of at the moment volatility?
Well, so in state funds, we don't invest in equities. So there's a lot of risk in the market right now, but we're not investing in equities. We invest in things like treasury notes, money market funds, highly rated corporate paper. So the General Assembly doesn't let me take a lot of risk, so we don't have to worry about that so much.
So now I want to talk about a question you know is an issue in people's minds, this notion of can retirement income be taxed? And I know as I read a lot about your positions, you've said, no, you don't favor it and all of that. Yeah. So I'm kind of wondering, why do you keep getting pressure, certainly from your opponent, about this? And I think I found out why. So back in 2020, you spoke at an Illinois Chamber of Commerce meeting. Some reporters were recording things, and what you said was one thing a progressive, that was the days of the graduated income tax, one thing a progressive tax would do is make clear you can have graduated rates when you are taxing retirement income. And I think that's something that's worth discussing. So did your position shift?
No, it hasn't shifted. I don't support taxing retirement income. I haven't supported taxing retirement income, and I will not support taxing that income. But my opponent in that debate supported taxing people's pension income. And he wanted to tax specifically people with higher incomes, politicians with that. But no one wants to tax the retired school teacher who's 80 years old. You know, she has worked throughout her life. We don't think you should pay. But this guy wanted to tax that. I said, if you had a progressive tax, you could tax those two differently. That's something that I thought he would like, and that was the argument I made.
So is that
but for me, it's not something that I have supported. I wasn't proposing it. My opponent keeps bringing this up and up because he doesn't have anything to say about how we run our office. So he talks about other things. If he really wanted to stop a retirement tax, he would stay in the House where they actually set those rates. As state treasurer, we don't set them. I haven't supported them, and I'm not going to.
All right. You've actually said in a statement about your opponent, he doesn't respect working families, won't work with all of Illinois. That was in his in response to his comment. You sort of just did it here in some ways, to retirement tax issues. But I guess the question I want to ask is, people are saying you're my treasurer, invest my money. What do social issues have to do with your office?
Well, I think there's a question of being honest. And that very much has to do with our office. When my opponent tells Illinois Right to Life that he's 100% pro-life, but then goes around and tells other people that no, he's not that extreme, how do we trust that person? And if you can't trust someone to be honest about that, if you can't trust them to be honest about my position on taxes, then can we trust them to be honest with some other things? And, you know, it's a question of who you stand up for. We have returned hundreds of millions of dollars to grieving spouses and orphans, because life insurance companies were holding on to money that should have been paid out. They didn't want to. We went to the General Assembly and fought to make sure that life insurance companies would do that. $800 million we found in this state that wasn't paid out. The life insurance companies were holding on to. And when I asked the General Assembly to make it clear in law, my opponent voted no. That shouldn't be a partisan issue. Paying out to grieving widows and orphans. We're helping people save for their retirement. Helping now over 100,000 people save for their retirement who weren't doing that before. And my opponent, when I had the opportunity, voted no. So I don't think it's really a partisan office, but there are differences between the two candidates.
And sometimes issues do come up in that vein. Darren Bailey, Republican candidate for governor, spoke recently at to a Palestinian group, and he said he would consider repeal of the state law banning public pension fund investments in firms that boycott Israel. Putting aside whether he would have the power to do that or not, but what role would your office have to play with regard to the policy or other policies that the legislature might take?
Well, I'd be curious to see where my opponent stands here. He said that he thought Darren Bailey would be a great governor. I don't know if he still agrees with that now that Darren Bailey wants to change this law. In our office, we invest in Israel bonds. We invest in Israel bonds because they are safe, they're secure, they pay a good interest rate, and they help diversify our portfolio. And also they work on our special relationship with that only democracy in the Middle East. So I don't know if my opponent, where he stands on this, he would rather talk about things outside the treasurer's office, but all I can say is what we do in our office. We have a strong relationship with Israel. We have a strong commitment to fighting life insurance companies and banks to get money back into people's hands, and hopefully people like the work we have done there, and they'll give me another 4 years.
Just a few seconds on this, but you, of course, run the Unclaimed Property Program, and lots of people say, oh, it's a great program, but it can be complicated to get my stuff. So, but you said it's actually been modified, easier for people.
I know that because before I was treasurer, I had money in the treasurer's office, unclaimed property, and I didn't claim it because it was too much work. So when I came in, we worked with the General Assembly in a bipartisan manner to change state law to make it easier for people to claim their money. So now they can make claims, they can file them electronically online. In some cases, they don't have to send us any papers because we'll do a LexisNexis search to find them. And in some cases, we do a money match with other state databases, and we'll just mail people checks. As a result, all the treasurers before me returned 500,000 properties. In my time, we've returned over 1 million.
All right.
Because we did things differently.
Current Illinois State Treasurer and Democratic nominee for Treasurer, Mike Frerichs. Thanks for coming in. Always appreciate it. Go Illini. We'll take our first break, and up next on WGN TV Political Report, Republican challenger Tom Demmer. Hear his plan for the state treasurer's office when we come back.